Welcome to GFN Gaming, I'm Russ, and in today's campaign game we finally return after 3 episodes elsewhere to Thea 7 and the fate of Lieutenant Colonel Shaefer. There is a campaign refresher video if you want to get up to speed with the story so far. It's just a collection of the set pieces for the games, and that goes from episode 1 up to the intro for episode 8. I've also got a playlist with all the campaign related videos on it. Also, you can join the GFN Patreon and have a hand in shaping said campaign and any future ones. All videos get released early on Patreon as well. With that said, sit back, grab a nice drink, and please enjoy episode 9 of the campaign. Send in the heavies.
The cult forces have captured the enemy commander, Lieutenant Colonel Shaefer. As they bring their new prisoner before their master, Lieutenant Colonel Shaefer activates the personal locator beacon built into his relic power fist. As Shaefer is presented to the Patriarch of Thea 7, his allies are closing in on his location. There will be no second chances. If Shaefer is not recovered now, there can be little hope that he ever will be.
What? What's so funny?
Oh, you'll see. But you'll not think it's funny.
Enough. Enough of your stalling, Commander. Your forces are scattered. Even now, the Ascended are purging their way through this system. We are victorious. We have defeated your best time and time again. Now, let us begin.
Aye, you're right for once, Longshanks. It is time.
I'm sorry, was something supposed to have... What?
Protect the master.
Withdraw. Aye. See you soon, boyo.
Kilomorph, follow me. The Master issued a withdrawal, Hieronymus. Don't test me, Silonius. I still need their commander for my plan. Your plan? You mean the Master's plan? Yes. The Master's plan. You, come with me.
Hey, thanks for the help, Harker.
I'm losing count, Angus. What was this, the 14th time?
You're losing count at 14? I thought you were Startes were meant to be clever.
You should thank Argenta, really. She called in the strike.
Oh, Drock. I'll never hear the end of that.
She's called in an Inquisitor as well, you know. Thinks you've got spies in a guard. She might be onto something, but seems like a drastic move.
Fire.
Drock! Harker! Where are you great lumbering oaf?
He's isolated. Now's the time. Move in.
This doesn't look good.
Attack ops are in play, and the mission objective is to secure the objective by the end of the game, Shaefer once again being the objective. Due to the nature of the battle, the forces of the Wyrmblade will be separated into these 4 deployment zones across the game board, needing to distribute their operatives in equal or as near equal numbers in each deployment zone. Coming in hot by drop pod, the heavy intercessors will select their deployment zone and then scatter 2d6 using a scatter die, potentially meaning they will deploy on top of the Wyrmblade or even from a board edge. They choose to aim pretty much on top of Shaefer, their objective for the game. The drop pod coordinates are entered perfectly to accommodate a precise drop from low orbit, and they score a direct hit. slamming into the dirt right next to Shaefer, throwing him to the floor as the drop pod doors open to reveal a kill team of heavy intercessors. A perfect deployment. As the drop pod doors crash open with force, the agents of the cult prepare themselves. Since the start of their holy war, they have yet to face the Astartes on the field of battle. As the smoke and dirt clears around the drop pod, they get their first look at the Astartes within. All they can think as these Marines leap from the drop pod, hefting huge executor and heavy pattern bolt rifles, is that they're a lot bigger in person. With the cult's forces separated across the kill zone and the Space Marines executing a perfect drop pod deployment, it's looking like a good start for the forces of the Imperium in this high-stakes rescue mission. Briefly shocked by the drop pod's landing, the cultists shrink back to cover, concealing themselves as best they can from this new threat now bearing down upon them. Heavy Intercessor gunner Manicius moves, his suspensor system whirring into action as he aims his heavy executor bolt rifle at the cult gunner with grenade launcher. Executor bolt rounds punch through the cultist with ease, and panic seizes the small group gathering around the puddle that was once their gunner. First blood to the Astartes. Across the other side of the kill zone, the cultist flamer hesitantly marches towards the sound of gunfire. Heavy Intercessor Tartarin, attempting to conceal himself in the dust storms sent billowing by the drop pod, moves forward to secure Lieutenant Colonel Shaefer. More movement on the far side of the kill zone as the Brood Adept leader moves forward alongside the flamer. Sergeant Eopetius breaks from the cover of the drop pod to fire on a cultist. Unable to find a higher value target, he hefts his heavy bolt rifle nonetheless and takes aim at the Brood Adept. Heavy bolt rifle fire rips the cultist apart, leaving a lone Brood Adept in the deployment zone, clinging desperately to cover. Unable to get into position and fire, the heavy gunner with seismic cannon hoists himself onto a vantage point using his climbing gear and waits. With the cultists hiding on the kill zone, there are very few targets for the Space Marines, despite the surprise of the drop pod. And so, Heavy Intercessor Brontes scrambles over the drop pod to support Battle Brother Tartarin in securing Shaefer. The Kellamorph slinks forward. Stepping from the shadows, he raises his Liberator auto stubs and fires. Shots punch through weak areas of the Marine's armor, but not enough damage goes through to injure him. As Brontes turns to react, the Kellamorph darts back out of line of sight. Remaining as concealed as a Heavy Intercessor can, Battle Brother Sterapes moves around the drop pod, sticking to cover. Disobeying the orders of the Patriarch to make this desperate attempt at retaining their prisoner, the Locust moves cautiously forward, looking to charge in at the right moment. Having yet to test his new form against an Astartes, the Locust is unsure how he would fare against a fresh target and waits on the outside, looking to pounce on the wounded. With no targets for Overwatch, the Icon Bearer marches forward, quickly joined by the heavy gunner with mining laser, who scrambles up the walls to join his kin on the vantage point. Not wanting to be caught out with the Overwatch fire, this Brood Adept passes and a second Adept moves, darting forward between cover, sticking to the shadows to avoid the punishing fire of the heavy bolt rifles. The last of the cultists acts next. Pulling the pin from his blasting charge, he stalks forward with his eyes trained on the heavy gunner. The explosion sends waves of fire cascading over the Marine, but when the smoke clears, despite the blackened armor, the Marine is uninjured, as he retrains his heavy executor bolt rifle at the cultist and smiles under his helmet. The cult operatives reveal themselves from the shadows, looking to perform the perfect ambush. First to move is this Brood Adept, unloading his auto gun into the heavy gunner at close range before diving into combat with the Marine, hoping to last longer in melee than against the heavy bolt rifle's fire. In a similar move, this Brood Adept also activates, fires his auto gun at the Sergeant, however doesn't get through the power armor and then decides to charge in, hoping to weather the combat instead of the bolter fire. As the brood adept tears towards the Marine, he slows briefly, realizing the full size of the opponent he is now in combat with. Catching sight of the Kellamorph, who retreated but hasn't concealed himself, Battle Brother Brontes darts forward, suspenser system whirring as he aims down at the Kellamorph with his executor pattern bolt rifle and fires. The Kellamorph is heavily wounded in the attack and indeed almost killed. Scuttling forward, the heavy gunner with mining laser takes aim at Battle Brother Tartaran and fires. Laser fire wildly explodes around the heavy intercessor, who is able to avoid most of the shots and takes no damage. With his eyes on the heavily wounded Kellamorph, Battle Brother Steropes breaks from cover to take a shot. Taking aim, he fires a salvo from his bolt rifle and the building explodes in bolter fire. Heavily injured, the Kellamorph throws himself to the ground just in time to avoid the shots. Maglocking his rifle to his back, Steropes then charges into the cultist. A heavily injured Kellamorph acts next. Picking himself up from the ground, he aims his Liberator auto stubs at Battle Brother Brontes and fires. Bullets punch through the Marine's armor, but in his weakened state, he knows his aim is off. Never matter, he can make up for the aim with volume. He fires again. A second round of shooting makes up for the sloppy aim, and the huge Marine is felled, bullet holes riddling his power armor. Then, with an effort, the Kellamorph slinks further into the shadows. In a bold and unexpected move, Battle Brother Tartaran races towards the enemy's lines, dragging Shaefer with him, and targets the Locust. Caught out of position by the brash Astartes move, the Locust is ripped apart by lethal bolt rifle fire. A stir of uncertainty flits through the cultists as they see their leader taken out of action by bolter fire. In immediate response, the gunner with flamer rounds the corner of the ruins and bathes the Marine and Shaefer in flames. Tartaran leaps forward, shielding the commander with his body. The flames blister his exposed skin and blacken his armor, but it's not enough to take the bulky Marine out of action. Sergeant Iapetius activates next. Hefting his heavy bolt rifle one-handed, he punches through the cultist with his free hand before moving back towards the center of the kill zone, making use of the drop pod to get some small amount of cover. Planting his banner, the icon bearer activates his icon, the adept in the area spurred on by this action. Last of the Marines to act, heavy gunner Menicius swings his heavy bolt rifle back and slams it into the cultist, crushing him against the ruins. With the cultist dead, he then races back to the center of the kill zone to rejoin his squad. Fearful that with the Locust gone, he will become the next target of the Marines, the Brood Adept leader moves away from the objective, hiding in the cover of the building. As the leader retreats, Battle Brother Tartaran opens up with his bolt rifle, this time in Overwatch. Power armor still warm from the flamer attack, he targets the gunner and fires, cutting the cultist in two with a controlled burst of his heavy bolt rifle. The heavy gunner with seismic cannon repositions to get a shot on Sergeant Iapetius. The seismic cannon rumbles in the hybrid's hand and sends a lethal blast towards the sergeant. However, throwing himself to the ground, the sergeant avoids all damage. The last of the cultists acts. Not wanting to provoke an attack from the Marine, he curls into the fetal position and waits. Getting the drop on the Marines, the cult acts first. The injured Kellamorph throws caution to the wind and jumps onto a crate, opening fire with his Liberator auto stubs into the heavy gunner. A lethal volley cuts the Marine down, but the heavy gunner pulls himself back up for one last assault. Only in death does duty end. Shifting focus from the heavy gunner, the Kellamorph then targets Sergeant Iapetius and fires, his wounds getting the best of him though his shots fly wild and the sergeant is hit but not seriously injured. Clambering over the drop pod's doors, the mortally injured heavy gunner, Battle Brother Menicius, takes one last shot. Pain inhibitors work in overdrive to allow the Marine to fire, but the pain is too much and his shots fly wild before he succumbs to his wounds. With shots still crashing into the building around him, the gunner with seismic cannon once again takes aim at Sergeant Iapetius and fires. and once again the sergeant's armor holds true and he avoids taking any damage. He then moves into cover, slinking into the shadows at a command from the leader. Locked in combat with the Brood Adept, Battle Brother Steropes clubs at the cultist with his heavy bolt rifle. However, the cultist manages to evade for the most part, suffering heavy wounds, but isn't incapacitated. With no viable targets for the mining laser, the heavy gunner repositions to get a better shot against Battle Brother Tartarin. Moving to take the ever-deadly Kellamorph out of action, Sergeant Ipetius moves forward, loads a fresh clip into his heavy bolt rifle, and fires. In the open now, the Kellamorph is a prime target. The sergeant easily takes the enemy operative out of action with a controlled burst from his heavy bolt rifle. Moving to put pressure on Battle Brother Tartarin and the objective, the cult icon bearer moves forward. Reeling in the urge to charge headlong into the cultists, Battle Brother Tartarin withdraws with Shaefer, heading back towards the protective lines of his squad. Not anticipating the bloodthirsty Marines would retreat, the Adept leader now races to keep pace with the fleeing Marines and their prize. Worried about how the Locust will react if they lose Shaefer. Looking to stall the Marine, the cultist shrinks against the cargo crate, not willing to engage the brutish Primaris Marine in combat, and passes. Acting first and finally able to shrug off the cultist, Battle Brother Steropes slams the Brood Adept into the cargo container, crushing his spine before leaping past him to provide covering fire for his squad to withdraw. Thinking of the wrath of the Locust should they fail in their mission, the heavy gunner with seismic cannon repositions to get line of sight on Battle Brother Tartarin. Pushing his weapon to overdrive, the hybrid fires at the Marine. Energy crashes into the Marine's bulky power armor, however is absorbed, dealing minimal damage, and the Marine is still uninjured. With the squad now executing the prime objective of the mission, Battle Brother Tartarin races past his squad towards their extraction point, making sure they secure Lieutenant Colonel Shaefer. Horribly out of position, the heavy gunner with mining laser takes a shot at Battle Brother Steropes. Mining laser fire slices through the Marine in a devastating volley, taking him out of action. Looking to draw fire away from Shaefer and Battle Brother Tartarin, Sergeant Ipetius moves out of cover, aims his heavy bolt rifle, and fires on the heavy gunner with seismic cannon. Heavy bolt rifle rounds punch through the power cell for his weapon, and in the explosion, the gunner is taken out of action. With no hope of securing the objective now, the Brood Adept leader moves into the Astartes deployment zone and calls out for the icon bearer to join him as he hunts through the remains of the drop pod, looking for something to present to the Locust, some scrap of information that might save his skin.
I needed him. We shouldn't have withdrawn our forces, but the Master ordered it. I am your Master. You do well to remember that. The Glorious Ascended are coming to purge this system. But perhaps there is more that we can do. A larger plan for us. Instead of ascending to the collective.
I see Harker managed to get you out.
Aye, look. Well, you know.
You're welcome, Shaefer.
Aye. Look, take it easy on Nixon. It wasn't his fault.
I know. I think you have spies in the guard.
Harker mentioned you'd called in an Inquisitor.
Yes. Well, not quite.
How'd you manage that? Did you get the comm system running?
No. We tried the astropaths again.
Are you joking?
Shaefer, calm down.
Calm down. You know the risk using the astropaths this close to the warp storm.
Shaefer.
Right. Well, did you call for Legion support?
No. The warp storm is still causing too much interference. When we tried, the astropaths picked up a broadcast message from the local system. An Imperial Inquisitor had been chasing his quarry, and he believes they are somewhere in the Ventress system. His message was for supply and aid.
An Inquisitor asking for help? Are you sure he's genuine?
Well, it was more of a demand for help, under punishment of high treason to the Holy Emperor of mankind.
Aye, That sounds more like it.
He's agreed to look into our spy problem in exchange for supplies and a moderate guard detail.
Right.
He should be here any moment. Communications have been sparse, but he seemed eager to begin.
And does he know the entire system's about to be swallowed up by the hive mind?
No. I thought maybe you could tell him.
Lovely.
Thanks for watching episode 9 of the campaign, and a big thanks to my patrons. If you fancy joining, there's a link in the description. All videos go up early to patrons, and you can even add your voice to the campaign. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next game where we have the Space Marines fighting against the deadly Horror Specs. Rules courtesy of Travis from the Brooklyn Strategist.